Good evening. Can you hear me in the back? Can you see me in the back? I'm a little fellow. Yes. Okay. Thank you, first of all, for coming on a school night, as it were. We're getting some more chairs for folks who like to sit. This is a good problem to have. We were wondering how many folks might be interested about this topic. I'm Tom Shannon. I'm your fire chief here in Scottsdale, and I'm so happy to have you here tonight. And we're going to introduce some superstars inside the city that are going to tell you a little bit about what we're experiencing in Scottsdale. But first and foremost, I want to introduce our wonderful mayor, Lisa Borowsky, for some opening comments about this year's fire season. Mayor Borowsky.
All right, thank you. Well, this is so exciting. What a great turnout. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. There's nothing more important than public safety. And tonight we're going to hear from our firefighters, Scottsdale Fire, led by Chief Shannon, experts in the area of fire prevention, fire mitigation, and of course, fighting fires. So as part of, I've only been in office 60 days, but one of my top priorities was to enhance our fire mitigation strategies. Being a lifelong resident of North Scottsdale and having horses in North Scottsdale and family in North Scottsdale, I'm acutely aware and concerned about the wildfire danger that we see out there with the brush, the dead brush, which in your world is known as fuel for fires. So far, we've been very, very fortunate. Diamond Fire, these gentlemen will tell you all about it, ladies and gentlemen. But we really have dodged bullets in the past. And so now, when I first came in office, I met with the interim city manager and Chief Shannon and said, I'd love to, really advance our volunteer effort to work alongside with the fire department. And Chief Shannon said, we're already working on it, so let's do it. And so it's really evolved. You'll hear all the details about this tonight, and I couldn't be more excited about it and more proud of our fire department. So with that, I'll turn it over to the professionals. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Mayor. And our city manager is in back, Greg Caton. Say hello to everyone. Okay, so I promise this won't be death by PowerPoint. We do have a lot of stuff we want to share with you tonight, but most importantly, I want to introduce the superstars who protect you in the city. Starting off with our Assistant Fire Chief, Carrie Swick, who oversees our Prevention Bureau. For the business community here in Scottsdale, you know Christy Gagnon as the Fire Chief, really. You interact with her far more than you do I. She has approved the occupation load in this room, I believe, tonight. Next to her is Jacob Johnson. He is the city's emergency manager. Our operations assistant chief is Clint Steves. Assistant Chief Rich Slavin from the Scottsdale Police Department. Commander Lee Campbell from Scottsdale PE. Our good friend Kevin Rose from the Water Department. Jesus Murillo from Planning. Dave Ramirez, who I like to call the Tom Brady of the fuels management world. This is Dave. Dave is even smaller than me, so I'm going to ask him to stand when he speaks. And Croy Epclaw, who many of you know from the preserve world and our open space protection for many, many years in Scottsdale. So, rules of engagement. Let's respect everybody's opinion in here. Every question is a good question because we're all concerned about the same thing, and that is keeping Scottsdale beautiful. I'm going to move through some slides. I'm going to be your man today, and I want to get to them to talk to you about the important areas of fire prevention and protection in the city. So the weather outlook for the season, this is a season update, is it's going to be hot, right? And we know that we are continuing in this drought period. We've had some wet winters historically, but it wasn't this winter. So it's already dry out there. If you're out in the preserve, you're experiencing that already. So we know it's going to be hot. We have meetings with our collaborators that Chief Steves will tell you about that set us up for a very good understanding of what's going to happen climate-wise inside our Sonoran Desert. Defining risk in Scottsdale, we know that our environment, because it's hot and it's very arid, that we have a lot of potential for wildfire in our open spaces. The wildland-urban interface is something that might not necessarily be nomenclature for all of you now, but hopefully by the end of this evening, you'll know what the WUI stands for. All right? We are currently in the WUI, and that's an important feature to know. We have natural vulnerabilities, and that is lightning strikes out in the preserve that occur all the time. And the most important thing that we can do is try to mitigate those human-caused concerns that we have. We're going to talk to you a lot about the areas of human-caused fires that we can prevent together. And the folks here at the table will tell you a lot about that. And then just giving you a sense of what is really a community conflagration. We saw that in the Palisades. We saw that in the Denver area. We see that year after year in different areas. We're seeing it in the East Coast now as climate impacts the East Coast as well. Okay, this is a great slide from some data that my good friend here showed me today. This is actually out of First Street. First Street is a climate data source. Look it up yourself, but we don't rely on any one source. But it shows that Scottsdale, which is outlined in there, has a number of substantial risks, from residential to commercial to infrastructure, as well as antisocial risks as well. So let's get a little bit deeper into what the WUI means. If we didn't have a established document in Arizona called the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, we would loosely call the WUI this: about a half mile of at-risk community within the open spaces, including steep slopes, fire breaks, condition-free fuels. The vegetation that exists out in our preserve and out in our open spaces include both native and invasive species. That fits that category. And creating, the WUI also includes challenging evacuation routes, which may be an important topic for you to understand. But we're lucky to have a Maricopa County Wildfire Protection Plan that we participate in, and I was hoping that Jacob, you would tell them a little bit about that.
Hi, good evening. Once again, I'm Jacob Johnson, the emergency manager for the city. The Community Wildfire Protection Program is an effort that is hosted by Maricopa County Department of Emergency Management and then participated in by, if you can see the screen, basically everybody, every agency, every city, and every fire management agency within Maricopa County and the outlying areas. Basically, what happens is we go through every few years and update the Community Wildfire Protection Plan with the county, and then we develop our own plan for the city itself based on the county's plan and our own risks and hazards. In this, we recognize that there's an increased wildfire frequency due to hotter, drier conditions and human activity, human interaction, like she said in the WUI. There's increased risk to homes, businesses, and air quality as more homes and businesses are developed outside into the WUI. And then our particular values at risk within the McDowell, Sonoran Preserve, and our communities that are adjacent to that area and other WUI areas. So the goals within this program is to develop projects for field reduction, which we'll go into a little bit more later, and fire prevention, and then to establish interagency cooperation and collaboration.
Can you give them a sense of what the map looks like?
So this map here, you can see this is the Maricopa County area and some of the outlying areas. More specifically up in the northeastern area, you can see our area that borders the Southern National Forest. That's the official WUI designation. But then the risk and the hazards pushed into our area through the McDowell Mountain Regional Park and the Sonoran Preserve. You can't really see the numbers down at the bottom. These are from 2020. They haven't been updated. This will go up. We're at a high 4% risk in the high category with 5,642 acres. That is as of 2020. And then a moderate risk of 58%, which sits at 72,237 acres. Those numbers will go up with our update this year with CW.
Thank you, Jacob. Jacob will be back to talk to you a little bit about evacuation process and other emergency management considerations, and then of course everyone's going to be available for you for questions afterwards. So here's our brush fire history. We are not immune to brush fires, and I have another map that I showed in other settings that gives you a sense of it's not just a central and north Scottsdale issue. We have brush fire issues down in the more densely populated suburban and urban areas of Scottsdale where there might be some open spaces. Plus, we have our neighbors to the east that may contribute to some open space fires. But 72 fires last year is nothing to sneeze at, and so we take it very seriously. Last year, or 2 years ago, I believe it was 2023, was the Diamond Fire. This is the reason I highlight this fire is it is the classic representation of the relationship of the WUI. So we have both preserve impact as well as community impact as well as open space or unincorporated Maricopa County impact. And so it really represents very well what are we talking about here? This is about about 1,700 acre fire. But that same fire placed at Gateway in the parking lot could have consumed much more square acres of wildfire given the topography. So topography is huge as it relates to wildfire management. That same fire down at Lost Dog similarly consumes a lot more geography. And so we want to make sure that our prevention plans are very, very aware of not only the nature of fire, but where those fires might potentially occur and how they might behave. So when we talk about fire behavior, there's fire flow pathways, vegetation to vegetation, vegetation to occupancy, and then occupancy to occupancy. Sadly, in the Palisades, we saw all of that. We saw everything, and it was wind-driven for sure. But we saw the vegetation first going, then it lighting structures on fire, and then it was a community conflagration. I don't believe that we have the same problem, certainly from Midtown moving north because of density, but we certainly have the relationship of vegetation to structure. I don't think we have the densely space occupancies that would give us a true community conflagration, but it would certainly cause significant concern for me. So what do we do? What do we do each year? This is our seasonal plan. I'm embarrassed to say, and I hope you'll forgive me, that this is the first time we've actually spoken to you about what we do and have done, as long as I've been here, which is over 15 years now, but this is the seasonal cycle. So it starts, and we can plug ourselves right into pre-season planning right now. So we are really, and I wish the pointer worked. You even did yours. Okay, this isn't like me, but trust me, we are in the preparatory phase. So we have had meetings with our collaborators in the region. We have had meetings with our internal stakeholders, and now we want to talk to you about what we think the season looks like and what our game plan is, and then listen to you and hear what you have to say. But this is a slide that represents an annual cycle, and it just continues and continues. We revise frequently, and as the mayor pointed out, where'd the mayor go? As the mayor pointed out, one of her first requests of me is please don't let us have wildland fires on my watch. And I promised her that we would continue to be aggressive as we have been, and we've had wild support from councils in the past, and we're going to continue to be that way. So let's talk about our current risk reduction efforts. Chief Swick.
Thank you. Good evening. So, like what you said, we've known about the WUI fire risk for many years, and over the years we've built up many different mitigation efforts and ways to try and prevent it. And I'll just say right now, the prevention's the hardest thing to prove because we don't know how many we've saved, right? That we wouldn't even know. So just bear with us when we do get a couple. Sometimes they slip through the goalie, and that's just what it is. But what we do probably prevents hundreds and hundreds of them happening anyway. So real quick, we have community risk reduction officers. Those are 3 captains that are 24-hour shifts. So they go out and they can do some, they're the ones that you meet. A lot of you have met Captain Steve Hunter, where they come out and do an assessment for you on your home or help with your HOA. So there's 3 of those. They do meetings with HOAs and residents. And construction is a topic. What we do at the very, very beginning of plan review is we insert a flyer that is in English and Spanish and tells the contractor all the things they need to do to be fire safe on their site. So that gets slipped in automatically when they get their permit, way back at the beginning. And then we conduct some meetings with home builders too to help keep them on track. Fuels reduction, Dave will talk about that. The inspections. So one of the things we do is we send the operations folks out in the fire trucks, the ladders, the engines, and the brush trucks. And our good friend Mella right there in the audience, he built a program on the iPads that will let us windshield survey all those greens, our houses. 33,733 homes we looked at this year. 348 had some issues. What happens is we also take a picture of the problem, so when the customer calls, we can explain, well, I think that it's probably that tree there needs to be trimmed up or whatever. So that's a lot of work. Next one.
You get the brush and you go back to.
Oh, that. So this is another one that Mella built for us. This was our inspectors are doing construction inspections for the residential sprinkler systems, fire alarms, things like that. We've asked them, we don't have a separate staff for this. We've asked them on their drives up to Story Rock and places like that, stop at, if you've got a minute, their schedule's very tight. If you've got a minute, stop and please engage with the contractor and take a look at the site. They do a walk. And so all those greens are locations that we stopped at and passed, and 3 of them failed, so we get it fixed right then and there.
Talking about hot work and risk, high risk activity.
Okay, I did the hot slide. So, I'm sure many of you in the audience have been concerned considering hot work that has taken place or construction that has taken place in our wildland urban interface. And you know what I want to share is hot work or construction work is just one of the many factors that go into the wildland risk, fire risk that we have within our community. You saw the slide earlier showing that we had 72 brush fires last year in 2024. 7 of those were construction related. So, you know, it is certainly a percentage of what we see, and it's one of the areas that we can have some level of control in. But understand that it's one factor in the big picture of what we are doing to assess the entire risk that we have within our community. So, as Chief Swick mentioned, we have regular meetings with the home builders and contractors to discuss with them what they need to do on their sites in order to keep the sites safe. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all problem. There are, you know, homeowners that have been homeowners for many years, and now they're having work done on their view fence, and it's their contractor. It's not necessarily a new home that is always considered the problem. So we address this. We're looking at all areas of the hot work. We're wanting to do more as far as requiring them to give us 48 to 24-hour notice of when they are going to perform hot work, so we can hopefully send out staff to go and inspect the site. Again, it isn't going to solve the entire problem. You know, we have a wildland urban interface where we've developed and built commercial buildings, residential buildings in the wildland urban interface, much as when we've developed in a flood zone. You are going to be at risk of a flood if you build in a flood zone. It's the same with the wildland urban interface. So the risk exists, and so it's our responsibility as a community to do what we can to best mitigate that risk and prevent what we can, what's controllable. So
Talk about fireworks.
So our Firewise program, these are just a couple of pictures of our before and afters of what we are looking to do within the Firewise program. So the Firewise program is a nationally recognized program, started in the early 90s. And there is set requirements as far as what a community would need to do in order to become Firewise. This very beautiful community that we're currently in right now is one of our nationally recognized Firewise communities. And years ago, we had to work with our planning department, and Jesus will communicate about the planning side of things, but we had to come up with some sort of measures as far as what we would allow within our environmentally sensitive land. We don't want to look like a concrete jungle in Scottsdale. That is none of our prerogatives. We have to find a balance as far as what is good strategy to mitigate the fire risk, but also to preserve our natural land. So this is a map. It needs to be updated because the ones that you see in yellow and orange are now green. So we have 24 communities in Scottsdale that are Firewise nationally recognized communities. Desert Mountain, which is number 22 up on the slide, is the largest community in the United States to be a Firewise community. We're very proud that is recognized. Again, DC Ranch is also one of the largest communities in the nation to be Firewise. So our interest is to ring the preserve with Firewise recognized communities. And some of the reasons, not only does Firewise help protect your home because it creates a defensible space perimeter around your home, but also as we partner with our operations department, when you have that perimeter of 5 feet cleared earth and then an additional 15 feet beyond your view fence, it allows our operations crews to have the opportunity to get a quick start on suppression of the fire. If we didn't have that perimeter around your home, we couldn't even get crews to the origin of the fire, so we would have a much larger fire growth before crews could even access the area where the fire is occurring. So that is one of the largest benefits that we have from the Firewise, in addition to protecting your home and property.
So with the success of the vegetation program, we would expect that folks want to do some things to protect their own self-interest, and that usually results in a bit of product being put out there. So we've got Dave Bennett from Solid Waste Management to talk about that.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Exactly what the Chief was saying. We want to help you. We have 2 messages for you. Number one, you guys, if you utilize our brush and bulk program, you're aware of our pile size limit, it's usually 10 by 6 by 4. And we usually institute a rule also if we're in front of your house with a tractor, we're not there more than 20 minutes. But the message we have for you guys to encourage these defensible barriers is we're going to relax those rules for the next 3 months to encourage you to do this. So we're going to go have you double that pile size, but also spend 30 to 40 minutes in front of each of your homes to mitigate this issue that you potentially might have. The other one is our roll-off program. The roll-off program, it's open for anybody, any business. And what we're going to do is we're going to waive the pull charge. It's a $626 charge. And what we're going to do is just charge for the amount of material that you put in there. So we go by tons, and usually it's $47.79 per ton. So if you put in 3 or 4 tons in there, you're going to be paying about $200. Quick mention to all the gentlemen out there, this is your time or opportunity to clean out the garage or clean up the mother-in-law suite. All right, so we appreciate that. And the last thing I want to ask you guys is lithium-ion batteries are causing a lot of havoc in our industry. They cause a lot of fires in our trucks. So if you need to know how to get rid of lithium-ion batteries, I'll be around. Our outreach manager, Gina Zima, will be here. Feel free to stop by, and we'll let you know about our household hazardous waste home collection program. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Dave, and I'm sure you'll be available for questions that they have. Okay, so I want to move into what we're doing to actually help protect you from the problem. So, as you can imagine, there's many stakeholders inside the city that are also focused on fuel abatement. And I want to give the microphone to David and Croy to talk a lot about the roadways and what we're doing to pool all available funds, whether they be grant funds or taxpayer funds, in order to maximize that decreased risk.
Thank you, Chief. Dave Ramirez. So, a couple of things. I'm just going to give you a little history about myself. I worked for the U.S. Forest Service. I was a fire chief for them. I had a very long career, 35 years, and I finished my career down here in the greater Phoenix area. And it was the toughest job I ever had, working for the Forest Service. Also, the funnest job I ever had. Traveling around the country on fires, that was my happy place. And it still is my happy place. But, when I retired from the Forest Service and working for the Tonto National Forest, the zone that I have, the south zone of the Tonto, so I have all the area around the greater Phoenix area. In my 10 years that I worked on the Tonto, we almost burned 1 million acres. It's a staggering amount of country that is burned up. And a lot of that country is snow desert. It's just staggering. And so, I just want to talk a little bit about just fire ecology. And then it'll come back to how it relates to what we're doing, our treatments here in the city. The snow desert is not a fire-adapted ecosystem. It never had invasive grasses. It never had weeds. It didn't have, a lot of these, different species of vegetation that we have here now. And so that's our problem. And we've had to be very aggressive with our treatments. And, fortunately for us, some of those treatments are very effective, and, sometimes they don't cost a lot of money. So we can do a great job, and Croy will show some slides that, like I say, the light will come on for you, but, the lands that we have here in Scottsdale, are preserved. The taxpayers, we paid a lot of money for the preserve. We need to protect it. I think everybody's in agreement with that. And so those treatments that we do, they have proven to work. So, I guess that being said, what I do now, working for the city of Scottsdale, is, I have the best job in the world. I have leaders that support me, and, like when I worked for the government, at times it was very frustrating because it was hard to get things done. And, like now I apply for these Healthy Forest Initiative grants, I get all this money, and we go out and do the work. And I can spend the money fast. But anyway, we will, we do get a lot of good work done, and we'll show some before and after photos. But just, some statistics. In a short amount of time, we've gotten probably close to 75 miles of right-of-way work done. And you see it whenever you're driving around in North Scottsdale. We're kind of protecting those fire starts, from those roadway starts. Careless smokers, people dragging chains, and really trying to keep fire from getting into our communities from the roadsides. And this is a picture of, the work that we've accomplished in the last 5 years, and so, 75 miles of right-of-way treatments, about 500 acres of work. And, I will say this, our work to be successful, it has to be collaborative, working with our communities. And that's what we do, working with all of the other departments that you see up here. It's really a team effort. It's not just me getting the money and going out and doing the work. I'm only successful because I have a bunch of rock stars that I work with. So,
How much does it cost, Dave, per acre to do mechanical fuel removal?
well, see, he said now. prior to COVID, we were paying less than $1,000 an acre. And it's very labor intensive. It's, hands-on, cutting it, moving it, slashing it, and then chipping. So we were paying less than $1,000. Now, some of our tougher units, we're paying almost $5,000 an acre. It's gone up significantly. And I will say this, $5,000 an acre, that's the cheapest acre around the valley. Like I say, when you go out and get quotes, you guys are really lucky here in Scottsdale. You have access to our vendors. They've been vetted by the city. And so if you want to use those folks, make sure you're getting quotes from those. We have a list of vendors that you can utilize. So that's a great thing. So this before and after, we did a treatment last year, Stagecoach passed. And the reason I like to look at this, you can see the significance of the change in the structure of the vegetation once we treat it. But this particular piece, it bordered a community in North Scottsdale. And then the house that you can see in the background, right on the back side of that, is U.S. Forest Service land. And then on the right-hand side, right here, going down this roadway, that's on our preserve. So that collaborative effort of doing this work together it's a must. We can spend all the money in the world, but, if our neighbors aren't doing treatments, we can still have a large fire. This is another project that I like to daylight because when this whole thing started, a group of us got together and we looked at where our threats were and where our vulnerabilities were. And so Scottsdale Road, this chunk of Scottsdale Road, we felt was a threat to us because it was on the west side of Scottsdale Road, really from Jomax all the way down to the 101. And it's the jurisdiction of Phoenix. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they're not doing any treatments. So I got a grant, and we did a 5-mile treatment along their boundary to protect the city of Scottsdale. So you can see how heavy the fuels were and what it looked like after we did the treatment. Again, that collaboration, Phoenix allowed us to do that treatment. It was on the Arizona State Lands Department. It was their lands. And then we worked in conjunction with our utility providers. So it's a team effort for all of us. And then this is along Westland Drive. This is the community of Winfield. We just finished this up the last few days. And before and after photos. They're in the process of getting their Firewise certification. This picture I put up there because I want you to know, not only are we treating around communities and, communities and right-of-ways, we're also treating around critical infrastructure. So this is one of our water treatment sites, and we all know how important water is to us and our abilities to fight fire. And then lastly, this is another one of our sites. This was our Station 611, the Foothills Police Department, right there. And that's a treatment that we did around this critical infrastructure. And then when we're treating right-of-ways, also all of those electrical boxes that are out there, we're treating around those. If there's a crosswalk, we're treating around those. So I'm finished. Thank you.